Hello yarny friends, I'm Sara Sach. Welcome back to my crochet channel. Now this is our Christmas triangle scarf. Basically a triangle scarf is made similar to a triangle shawl. One of the differences is we add a button to hold it together so you can wrap it around your neck. Alright, now this one is done where you begin down here at the point and then we increase every row until it's as large as we need it. That way it can be made for anyone. People who are taller may like it to be longer. Shorter people like me may like it to be a little shorter. Now if you do this pattern according to what I have written, you're going to end up with a 56-inch wide and 32-inch long from here up the back. And that's about a great size, in my opinion, for a triangle scarf. And I chose this yarn. It's really pretty. I had this on hand. It is a variegated. You can use any colors of yarn that you want, and you don't have to make it a Christmas scarf. The reason I wanted to make this particular crochet pattern is because it's one of the great patterns that you can stitch up quickly if you need a last minute gift, but you don't want it just to be a little coaster or something. You want something that's a little bit more fancy. And so this really is. It's just basic. It's not exactly like granny squares because we're only doing 2 double crochets instead of 3, just to bring it in closer. And we do this beautiful shell stitch on the edge of the back of it. And it just makes a really nice gift. And as you saw in those pictures at the beginning of the video, there are several different ways to wear a triangle scarf. And even if you just need a little extra accessory, you can find in your yarn, you know, just go through your stash, find some pretty colors, maybe some ombres, solid. I think it would be beautiful in just a solid white or a solid black, just to have to add to your wardrobe. You never know when you're going to need one of these. All right, so you can find the complete pattern with pictures on my blog. And as always, I'll put that blog link down in the notes underneath this video. To make our Christmas triangle scarf, you're going to need about 8 ounces of a medium weight number 4 acrylic yarn, or any fiber that you prefer. Now this is what I used, Craftsmart. This is from Michaels. And this particular color is called Ivy and Cranberries. And I used this particular yarn also for a Christmas tree skirt, I want to say about 3 or 4 years ago. It turned out just beautiful. And so what we're using today is, you're going to need 2 skeins basically, because you're going to get 4.2 ounces on each skein. And you need about 8 ounces for this particular size. And of course, if you want to make it bigger, you're going to need a little bit more yarn. You can see I have a little bit left here that I'm going to be using for our demo. So that works out nicely. All right, so about 2 ounces of a medium weight number 4 yarn. You're going to need a button, and we use that right here where we put the 2 ends of our top of our scarf together. And you put the button right on the corner, and you can just use any of those holes on the top depending on where you want to put it. I usually just put it right in that first one there. And so we don't have to make any buttonholes. We can just use those holes just to hold it in place, and that works nicely. And this button is about 1 inch. Let me make sure, because you can use anywhere from 1 inch to 1.5 inches. So it's 1.25 inches. So you want to use a nice size button. But I say anywhere from 1 inch to 1.5 inches works just fine. And this particular one I just happen to have on hand. There's 2 of them there in some of my Christmas buttons. Super cute. Works great. All right, now we're going to stitch with our H hook, which is a 5.0 millimeter crochet hook. And then of course you need a needle to weave in your ends and to sew on your button. And then of course you need a pair of scissors. We're going to be starting our scarf at the front bottom point and then working our way up, increasing every row. We're going to begin with our slip knot, and we're going to chain 4 chains. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we're going to stitch 4 double crochets in the 4th chain from the hook. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're going to stitch 4 double crochets in that 4th chain. All right, so we have our chain 3, and then we have 4 double crochets, and the chain 3 counts as 1, so that gives us 5 double crochets. Now we're going to chain 3, and that's row 1. Now we're ready for row 2. So we've chained 3, we're going to turn our work. We're going to double crochet in that first double crochet and chain 1. We're going to skip the next and stitch 2 double crochets in that next stitch. 1 and 2. Now we're going to chain 1 and stitch 2 double crochets in the last stitch. So we're skipping this one and stitching 2 double crochets in the last stitch. And chain 3. All right, so for row 2, we have 2 double crochets, chain 1, skip 1, 2 double crochets, chain 1, skip 1, and 2 double crochets. So 3 sets of 2 double crochets. Then we chained 3. So now you can see we're set up to stitch a granny style scarf. All right, so we've chained 3. We're going to turn our work. We're going to double crochet in that first double crochet and chain 1. Now we're going to go to the first chain 1 space and stitch 2 double crochets. 1 and 2. And chain 1. Now we'll go to the next chain 1 space and stitch 2 double crochets. 1 and 2. And chain 1, and then we'll skip that double crochet and go to the last double crochet. Whoops. There we go. And stitch 2 double crochets. 1 and 2. And chain 3. All right, so now we have 4 sets of 2 double crochet and 3 chain 1 spaces. Let's do row 4. So we've chained 3. We're going to turn our work. We're going to stitch a double crochet in that first double crochet and chain 1. Now we're going to stitch 2 double crochets in the chain 1 space and chain 1, and we'll just do this all the way across, stitching 2 double crochets. I know in regular granny squares we stitch 3, but we're just going to stitch 2. We're using 2 double crochets and chain 1s to make it a little bit closer stitch than your basic granny square style. All right, so then the last chain 3, which is our last double crochet, we're going to stitch 2 double crochets. And chain 3. And see, now we've increased up to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sets of 2 double crochets and 1, 2, 3, 4 sets of chain 1 spaces. And this is actually pretty much all you need to know to make this triangle scarf. All right, so let's do row 5. We've chained 3. We're going to turn our work, double crochet in the first double crochet, chain 1, 2 double crochets in the chain 1 space, and then we'll repeat that all the way across, chain 1, 2 double crochets in the next chain 1 space, chain 1, 2 double crochets in the next chain 1 space, chain 1, 2 double crochets in the next chain 1 space, chain 1, and then at the end of our row in that last stitch, it's a chain 3 but counts as a double crochet from the previous row, we're going to stitch 2 double crochets and chain 3. So now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sets of 2 double crochets with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 chain 1 spaces. All right, so let's do row 6. Again, we're going to stitch a double crochet in that first stitch, chain 1, 2 double crochets in each of the chain 1 spaces, 2 double crochets, chain 1, all the way across. Chain 1 and then 2 double crochets in that last stitch. There we go. And chain 3. All right, so now we're at row 6. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 sets of 2 double crochets and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sets of chain 1 spaces. All right, and see how that works? We increase every row. And on every row, our chain 3 counts as our first double crochet. And again, we're only using 2 double crochets and chain 1 spaces. So it is similar to our granny square style, but not actually the granny square stitch. And this is how it should look at row 6. All right, let's do a couple more rows. So we've chained 3, we're going to turn our work, double crochet in the first stitch, and chain 1, and then we'll stitch 2 double crochets in each. If your yarn doesn't split, we'll try that again. There we go. 2 double crochets in each of the chain 1 spaces and chain 1. Chain 1, 2 double crochets in the chain 1 spaces, chain 1, all the way across, stitching 2 double crochets, chain 1 in each of the chain 1 spaces. And then after our last chain 1, in our last stitch, you can get it in there. There we go. That's the hard one because that's a chain 3 from the previous row. We stitch 2 double crochets and chain 3. And so again, we have increased to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 sets of 2 double crochets with 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 chain 1 spaces. All right, so now let's go to row 8. Double crochet in the same stitch as our chain 3 and chain 1, and again 2 double crochets in each of our chain 1 spaces and chain 1. 2 double crochets, chain 1. And you're going to find that as you're working this, it's going to grow quickly. And it's a great project to work while you're watching a movie or on a trip somewhere, or together with friends where you want to chat and maybe drink some coffee or tea and work on a project that isn't like where you have to crazy count. I mean, yes, you want to keep track of your counts, but this is a super fast and super simple project where you end up with a beautiful scarf. All right, chain 3. And so again, for row 8, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 sets of 2 double crochets and 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 chain 1 spaces. And so now I think you understand how this works. And so what you're going to do is you're going to continue to repeat row 8, but you're going to increase at the beginning and end of every row. And you're going to repeat this for 38 more rows. And that will get you the size that mine is, which is 56 wide and 32 inches long. All right? So we're going to repeat row 8 for 38 more rows. Or more if you want it even bigger. So here is my actual scarf. I do already have the trim on it, but I wanted you to see how beautiful those rows work up. And as you go, it gets wider and longer. Okay? And it is absolutely gorgeous. Now I'm going to show you how to add the trim on the top here, and then on the sides, and then this beautiful shell stitch. This is actually an open shell stitch, and it looks perfect with this project. All right, so I'm back using the swatch. And what you're going to do is once you've made your scarf as big as you want it, the next row we're going to do across here is just a solid row of double crochet. So we've chained 3. We're going to turn our work. And one thing I do want to point out is because we're turning our work every row, on this type of project, there really isn't a front or a back. But once we turn it to this side, and I'm saying that because you may end up either side if you've added more rows, okay? So once you turn to this side, this becomes the front. All right, so what you're going to do is we've chained 3, and we're not going to stitch in that first stitch. We're going to go to the next stitch, and we're going to stitch a double crochet in each of the double crochets and 1 double crochet in the chain 1 space. And so we're going to place a double crochet in each of the double crochets and 1 double crochet in the chain 1 space. And we'll do this all the way across the top of our scarf. And this just gives us a solid row for a nice top edge of our scarf. All right, so just 1 double crochet in each double crochet, 1 double crochet in each chain 1 space, all the way across. And we don't increase at the beginning and end of this row. So this is what it looks like on the shawl itself, is this solid row of double crochet all the way across the top. All right, so back to our swatch. Once you have stitched that double crochet row across the top of your scarf, we're going to turn our work. We're going to chain 1. And now we're just going to evenly single crochet down to the point and then back up the other side. Okay? Because we just want a nice solid row of single crochet to put those shell stitches in. Now, when you're working down the side, it can be a little bit tricky when you have double crochet stitches. All right? And so the key to a nice even row is to put your stitches in the sides of those stitches, not the holes. Put them in the sides. Try to get through a loop or 2 and single crochet evenly down the side. Now, there is not a set amount of stitches that you need. You just want it to look neat and tidy. You don't want any gaping holes or, too bunched up. You just evenly stitch them, just eyeballing it without even, if you want to count how many you do on one side and do the same amount on the other, you can. That part is totally up to you, but we're just going to evenly single crochet all the way down to the point of our scarf. And there may be a spot where you feel like it would look better if you went in the gaping hole. I don't like to use the term gaping hole, but you just want to make sure that it looks pretty and it's even. And this part may take you a couple more minutes than, say, some of the other. All right. Now, when you get to the point, in this spot where the hole for the point is, we're going to stitch a single crochet, chain one, and single crochet right in the bottom of that point that's right on the front of our scarf. All right, and then we'll just turn and work our way back up the other side. And again, I realize this is just a swatch. It's going to take you quite a bit longer because, of course, our scarf is quite a bit bigger. But it's stitched up exactly the same, evenly stitching single crochets down to the point, and then in the point, single crochet, chain one, single crochet, and then single crochet back up this other side and meet up here with this chain three that was our first double crochet. And so on my swatch, I single crocheted evenly to the point. We stitched a single crochet, chain one, single crochet in the point of our scarf, and then we stitched evenly single crochets back up and then joined up with that chain three that counted as our first double crochet, and I chained one. All right, and now what we're going to do is we're going to turn our work and we're going to make those shell stitches. And I chose the open shell stitch because I think that it looks best with something that you want it to look pretty on with both sides. Okay, and this is what that open shell looks like. It's a double crochet, chain one, double crochet, chain one, double crochet. All right, and then we'll skip one, single crochet, skip one, and the shell stitch. And we'll just work this on both sides of our scarf, and it just makes a beautiful, beautiful trim. So we'll single crochet in the first stitch, we'll skip the next, and then we'll stitch a shell stitch that is a double crochet, chain one, double crochet, chain one, and double crochet in the same stitch. Then we'll skip the next and single crochet in the next. Skip the next and shell stitch that open shell stitch in the next. Double crochet, chain one, double crochet, chain one, and double crochet. Skip the next, single crochet in the next, skip the next, shell stitch in the next. And again, just to repeat, our shell stitch is an open shell stitch, double crochet, chain one, double crochet, chain one, and double crochet, all stitched in the same stitch. Okay, and then we're going to skip the next and single crochet in the next, and it's just gorgeous shell stitch. Now, as we work down around, we're just going to go right around the curve of that point. Okay, and I wanted to show you that because it doesn't matter if the shell stitch ends up in the point or not. It still looks really pretty. No matter where it ends up. Isn't that gorgeous? I just love it. And it's beautiful on both sides. And so no matter what side of your scarf is showing, that shell stitch is gorgeous. All right, so we'll skip the next. We'll go in the next. Mine happens to be pretty close to the center, and that's fine. It doesn't have to be. And you just keep working around the open shell stitch, skip one, single crochet in the next, skip one, and shell stitch. And then you work it all the way back up the side of your scarf and just join up and tie off. And then we're done. That's how simple this scarf pattern is. But don't forget, We still need to add that button if we don't want it to fall off our neck. That would not be good. All right, so I'm just going to stitch up this side just so I can show you how to tie that off. Because sometimes that shell stitch, when you end, will be on the last stitch, and sometimes it'll be on the next to last, or it might end up where you end up with a single crochet in that last stitch. And mine's going to end up perfectly, which I'm not sure how I did that. So I'm ending with the single crochet here. Now, if it ends up it's a shell, it's fine. If it ends up where you have an extra space in order to get there, that's okay too. All right? It won't really matter because you're just going to tie off and it's just going to look just gorgeous. All right? But that's how you do our shell stitch. That's an open shell stitch trim, and it looks beautiful on both sides. So here is that single crochet row and then my shell stitch trim, and I wanted to show you on this side it didn't end up perfectly, and what I did is I did a skip and then another single crochet just to finish it off, and that's where mine finished, and it still looks just beautiful. Okay, and this is how it looks all along the edge. And when I came around here, I ended up with a single crochet in my point. All right, and so that's fine too. It's just a really simple, versatile edge. And I love the open shell stitch. I think it's gorgeous. Now the last thing that we need to add is a button, because it's very important. If you don't have a way to keep it on your neck, I mean, you can always tie it in a knot or something, but I think it looks best with a button so that that scarf stays nice and secure. So I'm going to use my swatch again and just show you how to sew on the button and how to, make sure that it lines up and everything. Now you're going to want to add a button to make sure that when you're wearing your scarf, it's going to stay put. All right. And so I've got some yarn here, and it's really tricky sometimes to sew a button onto something that's made of yarn that's, say, crocheted or knitted or something like that. And so it's real important to make sure it's secure. And so what I do is I'll go in a stitch and I'll come up in a stitch. That way it's got some meat to hold on to, and it won't go through those holes. I'll leave a tail and I'll make a loop. Okay, then I'll grab my button and I'll sew it on, but I'm going to make sure that I go like next to it and go in more of another stitch or that stitch. Pull it securely. Make sure you go through a stitch, and then you'll sew that on, several times, making sure, and you'll notice I'm going to go through a different portion of a stitch, going through fibers. Okay, and we want to make sure it's on there securely. So once it is, I'm going to grab my crochet hook and grab the tail that's on top and pull it to the back. Okay, and then I'll tie that in place with a couple of knots. Okay, let me show you on the actual scarf. So here's where I added my button, and here is the other end. Okay, and so I'm just going to take that and button it through one of those holes, and that's going to help that stay securely. Now, if you want to add a second button to make sure, you certainly can, because you can always pull that over and use that as a buttonhole as well. And so this is our Christmas triangle scarf in these beautiful Christmas colors, and it makes a wonderful last minute gift for you or for somebody else. I may have to keep this one. It's really pretty.